Wait, let me find the sound. So, in the test, once you stop answering in part 2, first of all, two things might have happened. Either they stopped you because you reached the 2-minute mark, at that time they will stop you, or maybe you stopped yourself. When you stop, now the thing is, you never know how long you are speaking. If you stop before 1 minute, it is not a good answer. Your answer is very short. And due to this reason, they might encourage you to speak more. They might tell you to speak more. But sometimes they might not. Okay, it's up to them to decide how they want to help you or not. Sometimes they will say keep on talking, so you keep on talking till they stop you one more time. Or when you stop, the test is over. They might ask a follow-up question to you. So whatever you said, based on that, they might ask a follow-up question. For an example, when I took the IELTS test myself, in part two, the question was describe an unusual food that you had had in part two. And I told them about lasagna, an unusual food which I did not like, all of these things. And when I stopped answering, he asked me, had you told this thing to anybody before today? And I said, no, this is the first time I'm telling it. So they might ask you some questions like those, a follow up question, which is still part of part two. But once that ends, they will tell you part two is over, let's move to part three. And in part three, the final 5 minutes of the test, you are not asked personal questions like in part one or part two. You are asked general questions. General questions means questions about the society, about media, technology, environment, health, and things like these, where it is not your life what you are talking about. It is something that is happening around the world. So if you have no idea what is going on, it might be very difficult to answer these questions. It is best if you read news and learn about the world before you go for the test, because most of the times, just theoretically, I don't think we will be able to answer unless we know what is going on. Now, having said that, they will not ask you a very specific thing about the world. They will not ask you about politics in China or environment damage in Brazil or things like these. They will just ask about politics. Now, you pick any example that you want to give, but without any example, your answer will lack substance. So, you should know these things by yourself. And again, you can use your personal life experience to answer the question. If you don't know about the world, you can talk about your own life, but not every single question will relate to your life. And sometimes we will not know what to say. The thing is, I don't know is not a good answer. So you have to say something. It is best if you read news. And I'm not saying read news for the rest of your life. From today till the day you take the IELTS test, up to that day, read news every single day, at least 1 hour, half an hour, so that you know what to talk about. And this habit helps you in writing all of the IELTS tests. Anyway, so in part three, different types of questions are asked, and you are supposed to give a short answer. By short answer, I don't mean very short. Maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, not a very long answer. Having said that, again, in some questions, you might speak for 1 minute, maybe some questions. But in most questions, try to speak for around 30 seconds, not more. And less could also be less 20 seconds, but not less than 20 seconds. That means uh, your answer should be just like an argument that we write in writing. So those of you who have been here since writing, if you remember, in writing, when we write argument paragraphs, it is similar to that. There's a format of speaking as well. You have to be very formal when you speak in part three. So if you want to write, let's write one format. There are many kinds of questions. There are many ways of answering the question. But today we will learn about one type of question and one way of answering the question. And other types we will learn next day maybe. So what we are learning today is called a listing method of giving arguments. What I mean by that is, when a question is asked, for one question you may have multiple answers. Just for an example, think if somebody asks you, how can we improve our health? For that question, how many possible answers are there? Can you give me some ways how can we improve our health? exercise. What else? Healthy food, cleanliness, maybe. Proper sleep and proper rest, maybe. Meditation, maybe. Uh, what else? What if consultation with the doctor, timely visit to doctors, and things like these. There are many of them. When you start answering this question, how to answer them by listing them one by one is what we are going to learn today. Questions where there are many answers possible and how to list them when you speak. So, at the title, you can write format, something, format of part 3 or whatever you write. So, format number 1. So, I'm going to tell you a 3-step format. Number 1 is state your first point. State your first point. Before we write, what I mean is, out of the many points that you want to say in the answer, state one point at a time. Don't say everything. For an example, what I have seen a common tendency among people when they are asked a question like this, they say, the way to be healthy is exercise and balanced diet and health. And don't list everything at once. Just say the first point. And when you say that, you have to give a structure to your answer. So under this heading, let's at number A. As far as I know. As far as I know. So before you say your first point, say, as far as I know, exercise is a way of being healthy, or whatever the point is, whatever point you want to make. Preface the point by writing, by saying, as far as I know. Another option, number B, according to me. According to me. And this way of answering gives a structure to our answer, and the structure itself gives you some marks in the exam. When the listener hears your answer in the exam, the structure itself is worth something. So say it in a structure. Even though the points that you are making may not be good points, but the structure itself is something that you worry about. C, I suppose. I suppose. Number D, in my opinion. And for number E, let's write in this way. This is number E. I think that, I feel that, I believe that, or I really think that, I really feel that, I really believe that. So there are many of them. Start your answer by using any one of these phrases, whichever you like. And why I am giving you more than one is because you are asked more than one question. Don't repeat the same one when you answer other questions. So, out of the possible arguments you can mention for any question, state your first argument by using this phrase. So, let's say they asked you a question, what are the benefits of tourism for the tourist? Then you start, I really think that tourists can learn new things when they visit new places. Start your first point. Then, after you finish the first point, you may want to add other points to your answer. For that, number 2, adding information. Adding information. And again, I have noticed when people speak, they don't know how to finish a sentence. Like when a question is asked, what are the benefits of tourism to the tourist? They might say, I really feel that tourists will learn new things when visiting new places, and they will meet new people, and they will learn new culture. Don't keep on extending the same sentence. Finish the sentence. Start a new sentence. When you start a new sentence, you have to use words like number E. What's more? What's more? So, for an example, when you say, I really feel that tourists can meet new people when they travel to new places. What's more? They can try the local food, which is not available in their own home. So, in that way, add on information. Number B, apart from that, apart from that, and one more thing, I'm telling you about these phrases right now in part 3 of speaking, but you should use them in part 1 and part 2 as well, not only in part 3, and also in your writing. When we go to writing, I will remind these things again, but these are useful for all of the things. Number C, on top of that, on top of that. Number D, besides. Number E, also. So use any one of them to add to your first point. So add a second point. If you really want, you can add a third point as well. So say what's more, add one point. Say besides, add one more point. Say on top of that, add one more point. You can keep on doing that to add as many points. But again, just saying many things doesn't mean you will get more score. Just add one or 2 points. Don't keep on adding points. And then once you finish all of your points, you have to conclude the answer as well. One thing that happens in the exam is when you speak and take a pause, it will lead to an awkward situation in the exam. Imagine the examiner asked you a question. The question was, how can we stop pollution? Then you said, in my opinion, pollution can be stopped if government makes strict rules. And you stop talking. Now, what might happen is they might think you have finished the answer and ask you the next question, where you might be thinking for the next point. How to know what is happening? Unless you say thank you, or unless you say that's my answer, or unless I am done, how would they know that you have finished the answer? You might be thinking for the next point, or you might have finished the answer. So, to remove this doubt from the examiner, you should say something to conclude the answer. Like at least thank you, or at least that's it, or something. But that is not a good way of speaking. So, a different way to finish the answer. Number 3, give a conclusion. So, how to give a conclusion? Number A, you say therefore. So say therefore and finish the answer. Let's say you are asked the question, how can we develop a country? Then you start answering. I feel that the development of a country depends on good laws made by the politicians. What's more, the journalists should always report on corruption that is happening. Therefore, journalists and politicians are very important when we have to develop a country. And when you end that, that means the examiner knows the answer is over. They will move to the next question. And that also gives it a proper structure, which gives you more marks rather than just randomly saying things. Number B, all in all. All in all. Number C, in a nutshell. Nutshell. In a nutshell. Number D, uh, finally. And number E, overall. So use any one of these words or phrases to indicate whatever you are saying is the last thing. And once you say the last sentence, don't add more because this should be the last sentence of your answer. And again, remember, just because you think of new things when you are speaking doesn't mean you should say all of those things. Whatever first couple of things came to your mind, that is what you should say, and then you have to end the answer. Remember, even if you falter in one or two questions, there is a long test. In 15 minutes, they will ask you many questions. Just because one question went badly doesn't mean your entire test went badly. Ignore that, move to the next one, focus on the next one, always have that in mind. Same thing goes in reading and listening as well. Just because one or two questions are incorrect or difficult doesn't mean the entire test will be bad, and other questions are always there. Anyway, let's practice this today. uh, I will select some questions from the book where you have to list the answer. Now, this is again, like I'm saying, only one way of answering. A different way of answering is not listing like this, but explaining one with examples. We will go to that kind of question as well. But today, when we practice the questions, you start with the first point. Say, in my opinion, or I feel that, or phrases like these, and say the first sentence. Finish the first sentence. Say, uh, what's more, or apart from that, add one more sentence. If you want, add one more sentence to it after that. Then say therefore or something like that, and then finish the answer. So in this way, you should speak two, three, or not three or four sentences, not much. And let's practice exactly like that. Okay. So have I told you that the questions in part three are related to part two? Whatever topic you got in part 2, from the same topic you get questions from in part 3. The difference is part 2 is a personal question, part 3 is a general question. Like here I can see in IELTS 13 test 1 that part 2 is about describe someone you know who has a business, and part 3 is about business and work. They are always related. So this is about work. Okay, let me begin from you.